Okay, we're back on the record on D20-02031FY. It's a case with Destiny Fletcher. And Mr. Schmiel, you're here. You've had a chance to briefly talk to Ms. Fletcher. Today is actually set for the preliminary exam on this charge that was a felony, and offer was made to a misdemeanor malicious destruction. Where do you think we're at now?
I'm speaking with Mrs. Fletcher this morning, Your Honor. Ms. Fletcher wishes to waive up to circuit court in order to view whatever evidence that the people have against her. If the people could put in a note that we will need the body or the in-car videos as well as the damage report from the vehicle or any other maintenance that was performed before the vehicle. Ms. Fletcher has not given me her permission to sign the circuit court arraignment or the waiver preliminary examination. However, I can execute that, and I would ask the court to inquire if she would like to waive both of those things, as we are not in the same spot.
Okay. Where are you located right now, Ms. Fletcher? Are you at the 84th Street address?
No, I'm in Big Rapids.
And you're in Big Rapids living with family or friends or whom?
With my mom. With my mom and dad.
Mom's home? Is it your mom and dad's home?
Yes, it is. They've lived there for 18 years.
Okay. What's that address, Ms. Fletcher?
It's 16810 21 Mile Road, Big Rapids, Michigan, 49307.
49307?
Yes.
And do any other people live there besides your mom and dad and you?
No.
Okay. Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a sister.
Okay. And that sister does not live there, true?
True.
What's the 84th Street address?
I was renting out a room
Okay.
at my friend's house.
So
yeah.
a renter at a house?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you waive your preliminary exam today, what that means is there's no testimony on this case in front of me. The case moves on to circuit court, and circuit court is the next higher court. We're district court. The case starts with us. It moves on to circuit. We enter a plea of not guilty for you. So right away, there's two things that go on. One, there's a circuit court arraignment waiver. The circuit court arraignment is like when you get assigned the new judge downtown at circuit court. They'll sometimes have people be arraigned by the circuit judge, but probably most everybody just waives the arraignment because you already know what the charge is against you. You've heard the charge from us here at district court. You've heard what the possible penalty is, and we entered a plea of not guilty. Then it brings us to this point, and waiving the circuit court arraignment, which is the same process, but at circuit court, it gives me the authority to say not guilty on your behalf. So when we're talking about the documents, we don't have a way to send you a document to Big Rapids.
Okay.
We have a way to send the document. There's just two documents. One is waiving the circuit judge to arraign you, so it lets me say not guilty for you. So when the case moves to circuit, it's not guilty. The other document is waiving this preliminary exam, which I explained a minute ago means there's no testimony in front of me about this case, and I don't know about it. It moves on to circuit court. Now, you'll still have further discussions with your attorney, Mr. Schmiel, a lot, about what happens at circuit court. Like he just said, you want to see the body camera tapes, you want to see any videos, you want to review any reports, you want to see any I don't know, like estimates if there was any damage to the car itself, et cetera, et cetera. You'll be able to do all of that. It will be at circuit court. I'm going to have my clerk send those two documents to Mr. Schmiel. He can sign on his behalf, but if you don't want him to sign for you, I need you to tell me that.
I would like to sign in person if that was okay.
So how are you going to do it in person?
I would drive up to his office and sign after you send him the forms.
Oh, I see. So you'd come to Grand Rapids from Big Rapids?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll send on the documentations to you, but it is to Mr. Schmiel, but it is your decision, Ms. Fletcher, to waive your preliminary exam and to waive the circuit court arraignment so you don't have to be in front of the circuit judge just to say not guilty, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't doubt what you're wanting to do, but it seems like it's a lot of time and effort that's not necessary, because I'd say 95%, probably higher, of those cases, the attorney just signs on behalf of the client. But do what you need to do. I don't have any, other questions about it. It sounded like, and when you guys were on your break, well, not break, but talking, I took a break basically, and I was reading the police report. I'd never read the police report before. Go ahead, Mr. Schmiel.
I was just curious as to why the court had the police report.
Well, the police report from the court services, so to set bond and know what was happening. But it sounded like, I think what I'll do is I'll just send the paperwork on to Mr. Schmiel, and you guys discuss further what you want to have happen. But just so you know, Ms. Fletcher, it won't be with us anymore. Okay,
So
it
should
moves
I-
on to circuit court. Go ahead.
I was going to
So
say,
should
so
you-
should I have him just sign it for me?
I think you should, but I don't want to have your mom or you have to get a car and
Right.
drive an hour to do something that's really not necessary. If what you're telling me right now
Yes.
is accurate and it's what you want to do.
Okay.
I mean,
But-
sometimes yeah. So I don't think it's necessary for you to have to drive all the way from Big Rapids to, even if you lived in Grand Rapids, I'd tell you, have him sign it. Because
Okay.
it's not worth having you guys to hook up unless you're meeting for some other reason and you're going to be there anyway. Otherwise, he has the authority to sign on your behalf. And he's
Okay.
not going to do something against your best interests.
All
Because
right.
that's
then,
why, he has to zealously represent you. But just
Okay.
stay in contact with Mr. Schmiel so he'll tell you more about what's going on. I think it would be prudent and easier for you to just have him sign those if it's doing exactly what you guys talked about. Okay?
Okay. Then I give
Yeah.
him permission to sign for me.
All right, well, I appreciate you saying that, and I'm not trying in any way to trick you. And if ever it turned out that you had the desire to have to come back to district court, your attorney and you could talk about that as well. Whether that would happen or not, I don't know, but it's certainly a possibility. Okay, so just stay in contact with them, because the next thing you're gonna find out is who's the judge at circuit court, because it will be somebody different, not me. And when is your next appointment? Probably to Zoom in at
Yes.
circuit court, because we're living in COVID. So just stay in contact by phone with Mr. Schmiel. You know how to get a hold of him.
Yes.
All right,
Yes, I do.
Mr. Schmiel, anything else on the Fletcher matter?
We have nothing further, Your Honor. I do have the waiver of circuit court arraignment, Ms. Fletcher. I'm going to sign on that for you since you gave me permission.
Okay.
And then when the court
Yeah.
sends me that, I will get those back to the court. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. That's all we need then. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Ms. Fletcher, for your courtesy today. Sure appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Schmiel.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mr. Cordis. You have the Stowe case?
I do. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Is Mr. Stowe with you, or is he going to Zoom in?
I have no idea. If you remember
Not
last week
sure?
we were here, he failed to appear. I sent
Oh,
out a letter
okay.
to him.
Yep,
I received a letter from Brian Prisby too, that he has not reported to court services.
right.
And I have had no contact with Mr. Stowe, so
Okay.
I do not know
Let's
where he
give him a few minutes since it was set for 9:45, and that's just about what time it is. I have another case with Mr. Hackett. I'm going to talk to him a minute, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hackett, on the Arthur Thompson case, D20-02292FY. We did get an email recently that you sent to Mr. Tarango, possibly sent it to the court as well, about having discussions with your client, Mr. Thompson, and you guys are waiving this.
That is correct, Your Honor. And Mr. Thompson, I believe, is in the Zoom waiting room. And for the record,
Okay.
Art Hackett appearing on behalf of Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, thank you, Mr. Hackett. Arthur Thompson, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
And is Sean somebody in your family, or do you go by Sean?
It's my middle name.
Okay. I'm seeing it on the Zoom paper. I'm seeing it on the Zoom screen, Mr. Thompson. So I wondered if Sean was somebody different. Now I see Arthur Sean. Okay. So, Mr. Thompson, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski, and we were talking with attorney Bob Hackett, your attorney on this case, when you were charged with this 10-year felony called assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder or by strangulation. This is a case that goes back to September 3, which is a couple of weeks ago. And today was set for what's referred to as the probable cause conference. And there was discussions about whether you wanted to waive your preliminary exam or hold the preliminary exam. The preliminary exam is a hearing where the prosecutor has to present evidence to show, one, that a crime was committed, two, that there exists probable cause to believe you committed the offense. Today, there's only been discussion in the past about if you pled to this charge, they'd drop all supplemental offenses. Mr. Hackett indicated that in speaking with you, you guys decided to waive the prelim. That just means there'd be no testimony in front of me, and I don't make any decision on the case. The case moves on to circuit court. Do you feel like you understand that, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And by moving on to circuit court, you'd get a different judge at circuit court, and they'd have another date set up weeks into the future. You and Mr. Hackett would be notified as to what date that's going to be, probably again at circuit court by Zoom like you're doing now. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's two documents, Mr. Thompson, that we send to Mr. Hackett. One's called the waiver of the preliminary exam, which is what we were just talking about doing. No testimony in front of me, and the case moves to circuit court automatically. And the second document is what they call the waiver of the circuit court arraignment. The arraignment is when you go in front of the judge to hear what you're charged with and what the penalties are and what your rights are. If you waive the arraignment at circuit court, it allows me to just say not guilty on your behalf as the case moves to circuit court on this charge. So far, do you feel like you understand that, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, Your Honor.
So those two documents we'll send to Mr. Hackett, and if you give Mr. Hackett authority to sign on your behalf, you waive the prelim and you waive the circuit court arraignment. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you give him authority to sign for those documents?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, Mr. Hackett, can you think of any other questions you have for me on Mr. Thompson's case?
No, Your Honor, I've already discussed all of that with.
I'm sure
with
you
Mr.
have.
Thompson.
I'm sure this is repeated.
I do have a question for Mr. Tarango, though. With
Okay.
regard to the offer was plead as charged with no supplements, I don't see that he has any other prior criminal history that would even justify that. You need to unmute yourself.
You're
Mr.
muted.
Tarango.
You're muted.
My apologies. And you're right, Mr. Hackett, there are no supplements listed on there. As I was writing it, I just put as charged because of the seriousness of the charge, but with no subs. That was just me basically being extra careful. There are no subs involved with Mr. Thompson to begin with.
Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate
So
it.
then you just continue negotiations is what you do, Mr. Hackett. Continue
Exactly.
negotiations
Thank
at
you.
the circuit court level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this Jamie Black, I'm assuming that's a woman. Don't have any contact directly or indirectly with her, whether she's a relative or a friend or a stranger. No contact direct or indirect. And the bond continues. You posted a hefty bond. Don't do anything. You're reporting to court services, aren't you, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, ma'am. I'm in direct
So just
contact with
keep-
court.
Perfect. Just keep doing everything they tell you, just like I've asked. And you have any questions that come up, call Mr. Hackett, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Hackett, we'll send those documents over to you, or the one document, you make sure you get them back to us today.
Very good, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Everybody
much.
Have a good day and be safe.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hackett. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. You can disconnect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. I sure appreciate it. Going back, Mr. Cordes, to this Justin Stowe.
Yes.
I'm trying to see what the bond was when he posted to get out. There was a PR bond. He was seen on the 27th of August. He pled not guilty. We gave him the dates. Okay, well, I have an address on South Lafayette in Greenville. And I remember at the probable cause conference, I said I wanted to wait at least until the prelim to see if we had any connection with him. I've got a telephone number, Mr. Cordes, for Mr. Stowe that ends in 5098. Do you have that?
I do.
Did you try that?
I did, according to my notes on 9498 and 911.
Okay. Did you ever have any success in connecting with him
I did
through
not.
those phone numbers?
No.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna just try one more time.
Okay.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. This call cannot be completed because there are restrictions on this line.
It's saying that the call can't be completed because there are restrictions on the line. I don't know if
Your
that's
Honor,
some kind of a,
I also have
Go ahead.
one other number. Would you
well,
like?
just
me-
do this.
Yeah.
Just do this. I'm gonna say that he's not here and he hasn't contacted the court. I think he clearly knew when he had his arraignment at the end of August that this was set up. He didn't show up on the 9th or contact us. He didn't show up today or contact us. He's never contacted you. Make whatever effort you can to get a hold of him. I'm gonna do a $3,000 cash bench warrant. $3,000 cash bench warrant for his failure to appear. Now, I can recall that if we find out a good explanation for why he didn't contact anybody. If there's some misunderstanding, if there's some legitimacy to it, I would just change the bond.
Okay,
But
if
let's
I'm able
just
to get a
see.
hold of him, I will notify the court.
Bench warrant. Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much, Mr. Cordes. Appreciate your courtesy as always.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Tarango, I think that's it for, I think that's it for right now. Do you have any others that look, we have a Bolton case that I think is an arraignment.
No, you're correct, Your Honor. I have nothing else.
You're all set then.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks so much.